Initially, 3 engines were available: petrol-aspirated 2.0/150 HP, G4NA, petrol turbo engine 1.6/177 HP, G4FJ, and a 2-liter turbo diesel of the R family with a return of 185 horsepower, D4HA. After restyling, the gasoline line was replenished with an atmospheric engine with direct injection 2.4 GDI from the Theta 2 family, developing 184 horsepower, G4KJ. Turbocharged 1.6/177 HP removed from the list of available due to low demand. In Europe, the basic version was equipped with a more modest 1.6 Gamma series, developing 132 horsepower. In addition, abroad, depending on the sales market, under the hood you could find 2 petrol turbo engines, 1.6 liters, 177 horsepower, and 2.0 liters, 240 to 243 horsepower. The assortment of North Americans included a naturally aspirated unit with a volume of 2.4 liters, 184 horsepower. Of the diesel engines, foreigners got options with a volume of 1.7 liters, 115 to 141 horsepower, and 2.0 liters, 136 to 186 horsepower. In Europe, after restyling, the 1.7 CRD gave way to the new 1.6 CRD U3 series turbo diesel, 115 to 136 horsepower. In addition, an economical diesel-electric modification with a 2-liter turbo diesel has become available in the West. The most widespread in our market are 2-liter naturally aspirated gasoline engines of the new family with the G4NA index. Timing drive, chain. There are currently no problems with it even on specimens that have traveled over 200,000 kilometers. But oil burns and scuffing on the cylinder walls are sometimes detected closer to 100 to 150,000 kilometers. The disease affects, first of all, cars of 2016 to 2017 of release. Along the way, wear on the liners and crankshaft may surface. In 2017, the manufacturer carried out a number of engine improvements. Among other things, additional oil nozzles for piston cooling were installed and the oil pump was updated. It is worth recognizing that no more serious incidents have been noticed so far. There is an opinion that a collapsed catalytic converter, which sometimes began to crumble after 50 to 100,000 kilometers, could also contribute to bullying. I would like to note that the problem of catalyst self-destruction also affects cars with 2.4 GDI, but it does not come to a major overhaul. At least for now. The damaged catalyst must be removed. In addition, after removing the catalyst, oil consumption often increases significantly. It is possible to avoid mass loser after installing a universal or sports counterpart. A flame arrestor does not prevent increased oil consumption. Other gasoline engines do not cause serious problems. Common faults include ignition coils. They sometimes begin to fail after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. The diesel engine does not bother you with problems. Only after 100 to 150,000 kilometers should you be ready to replace a worn crankshaft damper pulley. Basic versions of the Kia Sportage 4 with naturally aspirated 2.0 were equipped with a 6-speed manual transmission. The 1.6 TGDI and 2 small diesels were mated to a 7-speed D7UF1 dual-clutch automated transmission. The remaining engines were paired with a 6-speed classic A6LF hydromechanical automatic transmission of Hyundai Kia's own design. After restyling, the 2-liter turbo diesel was equipped with an 8-band automatic. There were no serious mass problems with the boxes. So far, it is not necessary to take into account isolated cases of repair, since patterns are not traced. Only owners of the Sportage 4 with a classic automatic periodically complain about jolts when switching. The disease is typical, first of all, for 6-speed automatic transmissions. Dealers sometimes solve the problem by updating the software or replacing the ECU. Among the officially sold Sportage 4, only variations with a 2-liter gasoline aspirated could be front-wheel drive. All the rest were all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive versions use Magna Powertrain's Dynamax AWD multiplate electro-hydraulic clutch. Unfortunately, the risk of wear of the spline connection of the box and the transfer case, angle gearbox, remains. In any case, during a routine inspection, traces of the initiation of corrosion are found after 50 to 80,000 kilometers. Fortunately, there have been no incidents with turning the splines so far. The so-called all-wheel drive prevention will help to avoid problems, which consists in undocking the spline connection, updating the lubricant and oil seals. Prevention should be carried out every 40 to 60,000 kilometers. There is also a well-known separation of the four-wheel drive clutch basket in the past. So far, only cars manufactured in 2016 are susceptible to the disease, usually with a mileage of over 100,000 kilometers. After 100 to 150,000 kilometers, as usual, you have to replace the torn silent block of the rear differential. McPherson struts are installed on the front axle. Regardless of the type of drive, a 4-link scheme is used at the rear. The ball joints of the front arms need to be updated after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Silent blocks on the front axle attract attention only after 150,000 kilometers. Rear suspension silent blocks can wear out after 80 to 120,000 kilometers. In the 2016 Sportage, after 50 to 100,000 kilometers, it was often necessary to change the silent block pressed into the lower part of the shock absorber. Later, the problem was solved and the owners are still not worried. The shock absorbers themselves serve over 100 to 150,000 kilometers. The support bearings of the front shock absorbers could make noise after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Wheel bearings fail after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. They are replaced together with the hub. The steering uses electric power steering. After 50 to 100,000 kilometers, some owners had to deal with knocking in the steering wheel. There are several reasons: the damper of the electric power steering clutch or play in the spline connection of the steering shaft. In some cases, the steering rack began to knock. With age, the paint is rubbed under the base plate of the shock absorber bracket of the trunk lid. As a result, corrosion develops, posing as rusty smudges from under the bracket. During the warranty period, dealers often repainted problem areas. Owners often notice fogging of the front optics. An original desiccant helps get rid of this unpleasant phenomenon. A number of owners of restyled Sportage 4 with climate control complain about the inadequate operation of the ADS windshield anti-fog function. The manufacturer subsequently released a software update that resolves the issue. The service campaign included vehicles from 2018 to 2022. Often there are complaints about the efficiency of the heater. In winter, drivers note that their left leg gets cold. On the internet you can find a diagram of a simple modification of the air duct that relieves discomfort. In some cases, after 100 to 150,000 kilometers, it was necessary to update the faulty front sensor of the ABS system. Kia Sportage 4 deserves attention and does not raise serious concerns about possible malfunctions. It is better to avoid versions with a 2-liter gasoline aspirated, assembled before 2018. And in the presence of all-wheel drive, do not forget about the regular prevention of spline connections of transmission elements.